Okay, it's Saturday, March the 27th, 2021. It's about 1:35 in the afternoon, and spring. I always like to see the roses in the spring. They're just starting to bloom, but I got a lot of blooms on there, as you can see. Here's the first one right here. Blooms all over it. This is going to be insane when they all bloom. Usually they all bloom about the same time, but that's the first one. Here's the second one. Tree roses. I got several blooms on it. Third, no blooms yet. This one here has got probably the most blooms. See, there are blooms all over it. All over it. But look at those leaves. Look how healthy those leaves are. Nice and green, man, unbelievable. They always look better in the spring. I don't have too much problem with insects out here, but they still look better in the spring. But look at this one right here. This is going to be this one I saved last year, and this thing is really coming out this year. This is going to be fantastic as it starts to grow this year. And then this one here is the biggest one. This thing is about 6.5 feet tall right now, and it's twice as thick as it was last year. And last year it looked insanely great, and this year it's going to be even better. I got some blooms coming out. It's a little bit early. It's still only March 27th. I got some blooms there coming out, as you can see. But this thing here will probably be about 10 feet tall by the end of the summer. So anyway, I'll come back when these are all blooming. Usually they bloom about the same time, and it looks fantastic back here. But here's what it looks like along my back fence. They look good, and they also provide security. If anybody ever climbs the fence, they're going to fall into a bunch of rose bushes. So it's kind of a security thing. Okay, here's a smaller rose that we just got late last fall, and I just transplanted it. It's already blooming once there. But it's coming out. This is a new one, so this is just an early young plant. But right here I've got another old one. Again, it's coming out. I've got kind of like two levels. It's a tree rose, but I got like a bush rose beside it there. It's all the same plant, so I've kind of trained that one that way. Kind of unique. But again, the leaves are just fantastic. And then over here I've got two more. This one here has the most blooms every year. I mean, just look at all those buds right there that are just getting ready to come out. This is what you call, I think Mrs. Clay used to call this a double. It's got double the blooms when they come out. Twice as many petals, or whatever you want to call it. But this thing's got blooms all over it, as you can see. I mean, this is going to be insane. This one here, I actually saved it. It was actually broken half right down there many years ago, and I literally folded it back up and taped it with duct tape. It grew back together, and it's lived, I don't know how many years since then, and now it's still every year solid as it can be. You'd never know it. I'm really proud of that, and it turned out to be probably one of the nicest plants I got. And then this one right here, I literally saved this one last year. This was right down there. You see that stump? That was the original tree rose. It died, but they had all these other shoots that it started sending up. So last year I trained them, and I cut them back at the end of the year, as I usually do. And this is the new growth that's come out this year. This is going to be another insanely fantastic one. Can't believe I've done as good a job with roses. Mr. Clay and Mrs. Clay would have loved this. So, okay, then over here against this other side fence, got yet more roses, and again, this is the time of the year, and the blooms are coming out. This one here hasn't started really bloom. This one here gets a lot of blooms once it grows up again. This one right here only got a couple of blooms on it right now, but it's getting there. This one here, again, nice leaves. It's getting there as well. Early spring. This one here is like the other one I told you. This is a double one as well. Again, look at all the blooms that are on this one. Fantastic. one here is again another really nice looking one. This one here was a tree rose. Again, the initial tree finally died, but I trained the new growth that was coming out, and this is coming back. It looks like it's going to be a, right now it's a bush rose, but I think I can see it's going to come up. I think I'll be able to make that back into a tree rose again. And this one here, this one didn't look so good about 2 years ago, and now I think I'm bringing it back. So I'm really pleased about this one too. Last year it started coming back. Before that it was pretty much not too much going on with it, but it's really coming back, so I have high hopes for this one as well. So anyway, there's the roses along the side fence. Again, before they bloom. March 27th, 2021. Okay, it's a few days later, and this year I guess all the roses aren't going to bloom at the exact same time, but this is the first one. And it's got, as you see, a bunch of blooms on it. This is one of the better, they all look good right now, but look how many blooms is on this thing. Absolutely amazing, just totally. Look at those leaves. Look like they've been painted on there or something. Absolutely amazing. I'm proud of these every year. These things that come out, they look, every year they look better. All those blooms in there, absolutely amazing. And this one here is the second, as far as how many blooms it's got on it, but not nearly as many as that one, but it's coming out. They look good in the beginning when the leaves are fresh, new leaves for the spring. There's got a few on it. It's coming out. But by far, this one here has got the most blooms on it, by far. But that are blooming. This one here is going to be insane when once it starts blooming. But this is what it looks like now here a few days later. It's really great when they all bloom at the same time. It's amazing. Okay, this is the continuation of the earlier video. Here's the latest blooms on the roses here. Unfortunately this year they didn't all bloom at the same time, which is a real shame because when they all bloom at the same time, it looks really good. This one here, the blooms look better this year than they've ever looked before. Looks like they got kind of double, so that's kind of nice. So that's going to look good when it all blooms. This one here, of course, is the best blooming one this year. So it's got probably a couple dozen blooms on it right now. This one here is going to look good when it comes out. It's starting to come out, a few blooms here and there. And this one here is just barely starting, so this one here always has a lot of blooms, but unfortunately again they didn't all bloom at the same time either. So right now this is the way it looks right now. You know, it looks great when they all bloom at the same time. It's just a wall of color. This over here is blooming pretty good. That's about it. The rest of them aren't really blooming yet. This one's got a couple of blooms. This one here's got a lot of blooms on it too, so it's going to look pretty good once it comes out. It's the same as that other one. A lot of blooms on it. Okay, here's my miniature rose in the front. This one has been in a pot for years, and this year I transplanted it, getting a little root bound. So now this is all the blooms that have come out so far this year. You see, it looks pretty good. So it's a good, healthy plant. It'll really grow this year because I've transplanted in the ground finally. So it's going to come out pretty good. Okay, it's April 24th, 2021. I'm continuing to show the how the rose garden is coming along. This is the one I showed you earlier. Some of the blooms have come out now. You can see there's a lot of blooms still to go, or still to come out on it, but this thing has a ton of blooms every year. Looks really starting to look good. And the one next to it, this rose I've cultivated last year, and it just took off, and this year it's really coming out already. And this is already about 8 foot tall. So, looking good though. And right here now, these are starting to bloom a little bit more. Blooms are starting to come out on them. This one here, the blooms are starting to come out on again too. This one is about 8 feet tall. This one here was the first one to bloom. Still looking good. This one here, the blooms again, and more are coming out. Looks good. Yeah. This one here about the same. Okay. Okay, this one here is in the back on the side. This has got the most blooms it's ever had on it. It's never had this many blooms at one time on it. So this is probably the best it's ever looked, and this is an old rose too. Wow, that's really great. This one here is a couple blooms. This one here is like the other one, the other side of the yard, but you can see it's got a lot of blooms on it. It's gonna look great. Never was much into roses, but I gotta say, it was such a challenge, and I've really brought them out. So I'm really pleased with myself on this one. This one here is a really nice, healthy-looking rose. No blooms on it yet. There are some buds in there. It's gonna come out really good later on. But look how nice and healthy those leaves are. Look at that. Really amazing. Okay, here's the rose, the miniature rose in the front. As you can see, it's come out a lot more. Look at all those little blooms down there at the bottom. Yeah, this thing is doing really well since I transferred it to the front, transferred it out of the pot. So, anyway. And then this rose here in the back, this was just a stick almost just last year. Look at it now. No blooms yet, but it's really coming along. Okay, it's Monday, May the 10th, 2021, and I believe I'm going to finish up this rose video with this today, because they're blooming at different times, and but I think this is going to be about it. They're really good. I really like it when all these back here bloom at the same time. It looks amazing. But it wasn't to be this year. But I got a lot of blooms on some of these that I never had, like this one right here. Again, some of them I cut back today, and then that one right there, a lot of blooms on it. And that one there, no blooms at all right now because I cut them all off. They died. You know, they wither. But anyway, we got a couple of new additions there in the rose garden here. But this one right here, this tree here, this bush here, I love it, boy. It's 8 feet tall, and I actually trimmed some of the long ones off this morning. But anyway, that's the way it looks right now. Okay, this is another rose bush here in the backyard. This one, I had to spray it today. In fact, I sprayed all the roses today. Because the lady next door, she's got a bad aphid infestation, and they tend to attack these roses. Not very often, about once every 2 or 3 years. But anyway, there's this one here. Look at this. Look at all these blooms on this thing. There must be 50 blooms on this thing. Unbelievable. Now again, there's a few that are withered. I trimmed most of them off this morning. I did miss a few. This one here is about 9 feet tall. Right there, you can see some of the tall ones. Fantastic. And This one here, I trimmed some of the dead blooms off this morning, but it had more blooms on it this year than it's ever had. This one here, it's got a lot of blooms on it, and I mean, it will have. It's got a lot of buds coming right now. It's coming along. This one here, a few blooms. This one here is a few. I had to cut off. That one here looks kind of bad, but anyway, this one here is just like the other one over there, but a lot of blooms. Again, this one's had more blooms this year than it ever had. Okay, and then this one here is like the one a couple of trees down. Again, you see it's got a lot of buds on it. It's getting ready to bloom here in a few days, and it's going to be insanely great with all these buds. Let me look at all these bloom buds that are getting ready to come out all over here. Yeah, it's going to be great. That's one of my better ones. That and the other one are great. This one here I'm redoing. It was a tree rose, and the tree part of it died. But then I had other shoots come out, and now it's turning into a big bush rose. So, but again, it looks best it's ever looked. This one right here, it's coming along really well too. Again, this one looks as best as ever it's looked in years. Okay, and we're back in the front on the side of the house. This is where I put all the roses that came from when my mother-in-law died. And this one here, again, it's got a lot of buds that are coming out on it. It's just starting to bloom for this year. And this one here is a small one, but it's coming back. So I'm working on that one, but it's coming back. This one here is the one that was in the backyard. Some of the blooms are dying now, but it's probably got 50 blooms on it. Never had that many blooms on it, but I transplanted it into the ground this year, and it really likes it because it was getting root bound in the pot. And then over here, I've got a couple more nice yellow ones that are coming out, and this one over here is looking the best it's ever looked, and it's got a lot of buds on it getting ready to come out. This one here, again, the most blooms it's ever had. And this one back here was nothing last year, and it has really come out, and this blooming here got nice blooms on it. Okay, so these are the roses that are in the front of the house on the side. Okay, so anyway, I think I'll end this my rose garden for 2021. Today, May the 10th, 2021. If I wait for them to finish blooming, it'll be all summer. So anyway, but my old boss, Mr. Clay, would just love this. And Ms. Clay, they would love this because they love roses. I want to thank Mr. Clay for teaching me all that he did all those decades ago about a lot of things. Okay, that's it.